Now, whether or not you've realized it, you've listened to a skit before. And while I'm mainly going to be talking about skits and rap songs in this video, I feel like it'd be a major disservice on my part not to quickly mention that skits come in all shapes and forms throughout all kinds of musical genres, not just rap. Off the top of my head, a few prominent ones in most early 2010s pop songs is, for lack of a better term, the outtake skit. A few seconds long, and it's just the artist being a bit quirky, I guess. Anyways, let's hone in on hip-hop, since this channel is of course mostly hip-hop oriented. An abridged definition of a hip-hop skit, taken from Wikipedia, is that it is a form of sketch comedy that appears on a hip-hop album, mixtape, or song, and is usually written or performed by the artist, appearing at the start or end of the song, or as a separate track. This is the base definition, so let's go a bit more in depth. In my eyes, within hip-hop, there are two main kinds of skits, these being skits within the runtime of a song, take for instance the skits throughout Good Kid, Mad City, and skits that are separate tracks, sometimes denoted with the word skit within the title, such as the skits in College Dropout and Late Registration. Anyways, while these are the two kinds of skits in form, skits in practice are very varied. As I've already just mentioned, within concept albums like Good Kid, Mad City, skits are used to service the plot. As I'm sure you know, on the album, Kendrick has stolen his parents' van and is using it to go on a joyride around the city with his friends. While we hear in a lot of the songs about life growing up in Section 8 housing and his troubles, the skits serve as a way for us to kind of see what's happening. Obviously, I don't mean see literally, because it's still music at the end of the day, but it kind of gives us a perspective to see the events through, not in song form. This also furthers the story of the album being presented as a short film. The skits work with the songs, and vice versa. While you can definitely take either of them separately, when put together, it makes for a proper listening experience. However, these skits can also often be used as a way to pad out the runtime for albums, not really serving much purpose. This second point, while I do want to talk about a particular skit, which is its own song, it's clear to me, and hopefully you, that separate songs being skits does not mean that these skits are bad, and vice versa. Like, take the skits from some Kanye albums, beneficial to the storylines, whereas the skits on Justin Bieber's album that was released a little while ago, Swag, didn't really add to the listening experience. Like, if you want to be pedantic about it, it is somewhat related to the album storyline with like therapy sessions and all of that. And also, yes, it's not a hip-hop album, but I needed to talk about this, man. You'll see, alright? Let's talk about the skit, Soulful. If you've listened to this album, or if you're around music discourse around the time it dropped, you know that Drewski delivers skits on this album, which is, in my opinion, already a weird choice. Like, no offense to Drewski, but why are we getting him on this album? Like, yes, I don't think I mentioned it before, but comedians are often on these skits, but Drewski's just a weird choice. And that doesn't really help with Soulful, which is a very interesting skit, so to say. You know what, let me play Soulful out for a bit for you. Like, the part that I'm talking about, let me just... Exactly. While the skits on this album are supposed to be funny, I think, it somewhat ruins the mood of the album. And in the streaming era, music consumption has changed entirely. While there are tons of people that listen to albums in full, there's so many people that don't sit with the music. Like, look at someone like XQC. I know the stream where he was skipping every song God Does Like Ugly was a while ago, but I feel like I still need to bring it up because what the hell was that? Music consumption is changing, that's no secret. And with that, skits are kind of losing their place. Especially with skits like these ruining the album experience to anyone who's listening front to back. And then, skits in general not mattering when people are just shuffling through albums or playlists. But before I talk more on the issue of skits in the modern day, let's take it back all the way to the beginning. Well, not exactly the beginning, because while it'd probably be impossible to find the first usage of a skit, one of the earliest examples, and part of the reason for its surge of popularity, is of course De La Soul with their classic album 3 Feet High and Rising. When asked about the intent behind the skits on this album, the producer Prince Paul stated that it was done in a way to fill the void and provide structure. This introduction to skits in the late 80s would then lead to the 90s, where they'd be utilized as a way to sort of build upon an album's mood, whether that be through furthering a plot, as aforementioned, or just by contextualizing the artist's life. Skits can be found in several classic albums, such as These Nuts on the Chronic, and the torture scare from the start of the song Method Man off of 36 Chambers. Skits and hip-hop have been intertwined for years at this point, longer than I, and most likely most of you watching, have been alive. So other than, of course, the change in how music is consumed, why is it that skits have slowly started to fade from track lists? Especially when talking about skits as separate songs, because while skits in general are sparse, I legitimately don't think I can think of an album in the last few years that has skits as separate tracks on it. Well, other than audience retention, I think it also comes down to the audience reception. So of course I do my fair share of research for every video I make, and for this one, it's been very interesting to see the split on people's perception of skits. On the one hand, you've got people like me, who tend to generally love them when done well, whereas there's others that are completely opposed to even the idea of a skit on an album. In a way, I kind of see where they're coming from as well. It's no secret that skits can kind of get repetitive, especially the bad ones when you're listening again and again. When integrated poorly, or when it's just done poorly, it detracts from the album experience, especially considering music consumption with streaming in the modern era. Skits are seen as distractions from the core track list. Like I said before, they're often skipped over by the average listener. When listening to an album on CD, vinyl, or any other form of physical media, skipping wasn't possible. But now with streaming, you can just pick and choose whatever song you want, when you pay for premium, of course. So this, alongside the general audience hating skits and the abundance of bad ones, just left a bad aftertaste. The repetitive nature would make it tedious, and slowly skits and albums would start dying out, especially once streaming came around. For most artists, entire separate tracks weren't worth it anymore, which is why when we do see skits in the modern era, it's for the most part within songs. Take the skits on Chromacopia, Gene X, or even Good Kid, Mad City for example. Skits get skipped, so skits become part of songs. And even then, the core idea of a skit is kind of dying out, since for a lot of the examples I just listed off, you can consider the skit to be an interlude. Nonetheless, while skits may be less prominent on albums, I don't really think they're properly dying out. But wait. But to stop this video from being clickbait, skits as separate songs are definitely dying out. I don't disagree with that. That's my opinion here. I feel like skits as separate songs, in the next few years with streaming, skits as separate songs are gonna mostly be gone. Shuffleable music makes them irrelevant, I guess, which sucks to say, especially when it's just a comedian or the artist themselves making jokes, thinking they're funny. But as long as skits can service an album listening experience, or the artist thinks they're very funny, they won't really be dead. At the end of the day, like I said, it really just comes down to what you consider a skit. Alright, I'm getting back into a groove. Hope you liked the little discussion we had about skits. I honestly thought it would be longer, but I didn't really have too much to say. So just let me know if you've got any thoughts you feel like I should address. So yeah, other than that, I will slowly be making more video essays during my break from school that I have. And subscribe if you want. And don't forget to stay comical. Bye-bye.